Good morning, everybody. Thank you today for joining Sitting Guild's Hair and Beauty Regional Network meeting through a webinar. My name is Diane Mitchell and I'm the Technical Advisor for Hair and Beauty. This webinar is going to be between 1 and 1.5 hours. We'll be covering the technicals as well as apprenticeship reforms. So this webinar will be recorded. So at the end of the session, I will send you my slides plus the webinar. Also, you can ask questions as I'm going along, and I will endeavour to answer all your questions. So if you have a question coming up, just type it in the box and I'll answer it, different questions throughout the meeting. Okay, so today on the agenda, we're going to be covering Level 3 Technicals onboarding. We're very fortunate in Hair and Beauty. We have already got nearly 2,500 learners signed up to do the Level 3 Technicals this year across around about 72 different centres. So we're having some really good feedback about how these are going and how learners are much preferring actually not worrying about having to find all that range and just concentrating on developing their skills. They're going to talk to you a little bit about the Level 2 Key Stage 4 qualification in Hair and Beauty Studies. And then I'm going to go through what we have actually submitted to the Department for Education for first teaching in September 2017. Then I'm going to finish the recording today on really the apprenticeship reforms and some of the most up-to-date information that you need to prepare yourselves for the changes to apprenticeships that will come into force as from May 2017. Okay, so we're going to start to have a little look, a closer look at the technical qualifications. I think that we've got to get our heads around the new glossary of terms, and I think if you've been to any of my previous meetings, I have been through these changes a few times, but I just wanted to recap and reinforce some of the changes that actually within England and England only, because these reforms are only for England, by the time 2018 comes, we will probably not be talking any longer in the terms of qualifications that are titled under the term of BRQs or MVQs. The other change we're going to have to get our heads around is that 9 years ago when QCF came into play, we started to develop lots of different sizes of qualification, and the titling convention around QCF was that an award was a small qualification, a certificate was something slightly larger, and a diploma was just a big qualification. Under the new titling conventions, I want you to completely erase that from your memory, because that will not be the case moving forward. So, the reason we're in the situation we are in today is because we've had two major reforms going on. We've had the Alison Wolfe reforms, which has been looking at 14 to 19 education, and we've had the Doug Richard reforms that have been looking at apprenticeship standards. We've got another reform that is taking place at the moment called the Sainsbury's Review, which I will talk to you about as we go through the presentation. Under the new rules from the Department for Education, qualifications now that we will be delivering to 14 to 19-year-olds that sit under Level 2 and Level 3 need to be comparable at Level 2 to a GCSE and at Level 3 to an A-level. In the past, it's been Habia that has stated what should be assessed and how it should be assessed. In the new world within England, it's our employers that need to make that decision about what is the most important skills to make somebody most employable in the hair industry or in the beauty-related industries. And it is now the Department for Education that we go to get approval for our qualification. So when we start to talk about Key Stage 4 qualifications applies to learners between the age of 14 to 16 in years 9, 10 and 11 at school. And these qualifications will be at Level 2, which will be comparable to a GCSE. These new reforms that I'm going to be talking to you about today that only applies to level 2 and level 3 qualifications. Level 1 qualifications will be business as usual. So although I say we won't have VRQs and MVQs, the only qualifications we will have VRQs and MVQs still in will be at level 1. So we will continue with our 3001 Introduction to the Hair and Beauty Sector for a level 1 learner. We will have our 6008 MVQ level 1 in hairdressing and barbering. And we will have our 3007 level 1 MVQ in beauty therapy. These will still be available for your less able learners. So Key Stage 4 will be the new title for learners that are undertaking a level 2 qualification that will sit on the performance tables and that will be comparable to a GCSE. Key Stage 5 will be a post-16 learner studying on a level 2 or a level 3 qualification. If a learner is undertaking a Key Stage 4 qualification that has been approved by the Department for Education, it will be called a technical award, so a level 2 technical award in hair and beauty studies, a level 2 technical award in hospitality and catering. A technical certificate is going to be the new naming conventions for our new level 2 post-16 qualifications that have been approved by the Department for Education to sit on the performance tables. And we've already gone live with our level 3 technical diplomas, which obviously are live on for the system now, and actually does have UCAS points as well. The reason these are also important is in the future, as an organisation, you will have to publish your performance tables every year, like a school does, like a university does, and you will be measured now on how many learners you're getting out at hair and beauty at A star through to C. So if I was a prospective parent, I would then be checking everybody's performance tables, and I'd want my son or daughter to go to the college that is getting those A stars grades for those learners that want to go into hairdressing or beauty therapy. As part of the design principles for these new qualifications, Department for Education state there has to be some form of synoptic assessment. So we're going to be moving away from how we've assessed for the last 20 or 30 years, where we deliver a unit. We then get those learners ready for those final assessments. We have to find the stated range that they need to cover that unit. We then get those learners to sit that online test or that assignment, and then we sign that unit off. That's the type of delivery is going to be going. We're going back to teaching to a syllabus where we will be end testing towards the end of the qualification. Obviously, the journey of that learner is still going to be so important, but the end point, the cherry on top of the cake, is can they do the job? And what we've looked at for our synoptic assessment is going to be a trade test practical approach. So the learners at the end will have to perform a trade test to state, can they actually do that job? Over the last few years, we've actually seemed to have broken down relationships with our schools, and I really think we've now got to start to build those relationships up. Because when a school learner goes to choose their options in year 9, they have their 5 academic subjects under Progress 8, which they need to, and Attainment 8 they need to choose, but then they have 3 opportunities to pick up vocational related qualifications that sit on the performance table, so will be comparable to a GCSE under Key Stage 4. So I think it's really a great opportunity for learners to be able to start their hair and beauty journey at the age of, in year 10 or 11 at school. What Alison Wolfe is adamant about, though, that there cannot be any crossover of skills and knowledge from Key Stage 4 to Key Stage 5. Where we've been fallen foul in the past is where a learner has maybe taken up a VRQ at the age of 14, and then when they come to college at post-16, they've already done half of those skills. They already think they're a hairdresser or a beauty therapist, and obviously that isn't the case. So the Key Stage 4 qualification will have a slight bit of practical activity in it, but it's more of the knowledge of hair and beauty, the history of hair and beauty, the science of hair and beauty. As I said, our level 3s have gone live this year, and the great news is that they are now comparable to an A-level, and they do have UCAS points. When I send you through the thank you for listening in today, we've recently developed an HEI guide which actually goes through all of our technicals at level 3, and it then talks about what progression into HE the learners can do. And I know you're all probably carrying out parents' evenings at the moment, which I think these HEI guides would be a great opportunity to sit with prospective parents and learners and talk to them about, yes, they can come to college and learn to be a hairdresser or a beauty therapist, but it still gives them that choice if they wish to later on in life to progress on to higher education. The design principles for these new types of qualification is that there is only one resit opportunity. And I think this is the biggest, strongest message that we're getting at the moment, is that in some cases in the past, maybe learners, because we have been measured on success, the problem with the ongoing assessment that we do today, if a learner fails that cut, they just do it again and again and again. Those learners that fail that online test at the end, they just do it again and again and again. And really, in some cases, learners that are still on programme in May, because we have been driven by success in the past, maybe those learners have been maybe spoon-fed through a little bit. Really, did they achieve that qualification in their own right? Did they have the skills to go into employment? And I think now that is the biggest change, that we're going to have to make sure that if a learner is going out with that qualification, that they actually do deserve that qualification and they have the skills to be able to progress into employment. So the biggest change is that for the externally set and externally marked element, which City & Guilds have decided is going to be the knowledge aspect, there will be only one opportunity for a resit. If the learner fails that resit opportunity, then they fail that qualification and then they will have to repeat that the following year. But the issue there is they will not be repeat funded for the same learning aim. So, what have we got available now? As part of the Sainsbury's review, one of the things that they are talking about is that they want clear routes into employment. And I think one of the biggest message from the Sainsbury's review is that we cannot have the Heinz 57 varieties we have any longer. And I think this was due to QCF, when before programmes of study, how we were funded on the size of the qualifications. So we built big diplomas, small diplomas, big certificates, small certificates, and really we have flooded the markets with different qualifications in hairdressing and beauty therapy. Employers are completely confused out there with what a qualification is and what is in a qualification. And what we really want to go back to at City & Guilds is get back to that gold kite mark. Have you got your City & Guilds in hairdressing? One clear route into employment. So we have our Level 3 Advanced Technical Diploma in Beauty and Spa Therapy. We have an industry board for beauty and spa, and it is our industry board that states what are the most important skills to make that young person most employable within the beauty and spa industry. We then have our now industry board, and again, it's these people that say what are the most important skills. Then we have our media makeup qualification, media makeup artistry. Then we have our theatrical special effects and media makeup artistry. And then we have our complementary therapies. Now, because complementary therapies has been regulated by the CNHC, this qualification really hasn't changed too much, because within this qualification it did have the rigour and the quality. It did have external testing in it. So really the design principles of complementary therapies actually met very much the Department for Education's requirements. So we now have only 5 Level 3 qualifications for post-16 learners. clear routes into employment. For hairdressing, when we started on this journey, we were in a slightly better situation than beauty therapy because we've recently been through the NOS redevelopment for the apprenticeships and the MVQs. So if you've already gone live with our new 6008 MVQs in hairdressing and barbering, then actually these qualifications are going to be very, very similar, because what my employers want was actually the same skills delivered to apprentices as to full-time learners. And that is another message that is coming through from the Sainsbury's review. They're talking about very much one single framework. It shouldn't really matter if a learner is studying full-time at college or on apprenticeship. The end point is exactly the same. The skills are exactly the same. So within these qualifications, I have literally just picked up my MVQ units from 6008 and put it into the rules of combination. So you could potentially have your apprentices and your full-time learners in one class. How you would be delivering your schemes work and your lesson plans would be exactly the same, but how you would be assessing them would be still slightly different. When my employer group sat down for hairdressing, and we are talking about hairdressing with this qualification, it's not women's hairdressing, so this qualification can be carried out on male or female clients. They were adamant that they wanted the mandatory units to be consultation, cutting, colouring, creative styling and dressing, and colour correction. They wanted colour corrections mandatory because they felt that actually within today's society, when the majority of our clients come through the door with an aspect of colour correction, to make a young person most employable, they should understand colour. So unlike our apprenticeship where colour correction is optional, within the technicals colour correction is mandatory. Then we've got our barbering route, exactly the same. Those units that we've taken from our NVQ level 3 in barbering, exactly the same units, so the knowledge and the skills are exactly the same. How we will be assessing them will be slightly different. So that will be our two routes into employment, hairdressing and barbering. So, as part of these design principles for these new qualifications is they have to have a dated entry exam. So how we are doing it, the externally set and externally marked element, you should, if you're running these qualifications, you should have already let your learners know when these test dates are going to be, and you should have already let your exam departments know when these test dates are going to be. Now, when the learner sits on the Monday the 24th of April, they will then have the opportunity to do a paper-based test or an online test. We sent out some communication last week regarding the codes for these new tests. Depending on each individual learner, you can make a choice if you get them to do it online or paper-based. The test will be exactly the same. It will not be multiple choice questions. It will be short answer questions with a case study approach. Obviously, the reason we're doing two options is that for some learners, sitting in front of a computer screen isn't always the best way of assessing a learner, so we're giving them that option. Once they sit on the 24th of April, it gets sent back to Sitting Guilds to mark. It's going to take us around about 5 weeks for my markers to mark them, to be moderated and get the results back to you. Once we get the results back to you, you then have 3 weeks to get your learners ready for the resit opportunity on the 19th of June. The test dates will always be that first week of for hair and beauty, that first week, Monday the 24th of April. For Key Stage 4 is slightly later, and they have their first opportunity on the 3rd of May and their second opportunity on the 28th of June. If you have a learner that is off sick on the 24th of April, then they could have their first opportunity on the 19th of June. Here are the dates for beauty. So beauty, we try to make sure that everybody's not sitting on the same day. So beauty is going to be on the Tuesday. Complementary therapies is slightly different to every other technical qualification level 3 in hair and beauty, as we do have 2 different test papers, and that is because it's being regulated by the CNHC. Then we have our nails on the Wednesday, and then we have our theatrical on the, our diploma in media makeup artistry on the Thursday, and our theatrical on the Friday. Other key dates you need to be thinking about is if you are delivering these technicals this year to your learners, you should have already started to think about informally ranking your learners. Now, what I like best about these technical qualifications is it brings together what us as your awarding organisation and what Ofsted want together. Now, as your awarding organisation, we are going to be doing all the marking for you for the knowledge-based tests. You're actually not going to have any summative marking to do, so your burden on ongoing assessment will be much smaller. Also, the end synoptic assessment will be moderated. So the journey still is very, very important, but although we are interested and want to support you with the journey, sitting guilds won't particularly look at the journey of that learner, any formative assessments. That is going to be something that Ofsted will want to do. But obviously, we're supporting you with making sure that those learners are fully prepared for that endpoint knowledge test and that endpoint synoptic practical assignment. So, if you're following our academic planners that we put together last year for you, it's coming up to Christmas now, so we'll be saying, okay, you need to start to think about informally ranking your learners. And you could probably all now tell me who are your distinctions, who are your merits, and who are your passes. As part of Ofsted will be wanting to see what are you doing with your passes to get them up to the merits, what are you doing with your merits to get them up to a distinction, and what you do with distinction for added value to get them up to a distinction star. Also, you should start to be thinking about doing some mock assessments where you're bringing those skills together, not just thinking about assessing that cut, but getting that client in for that creative cut and creative colour, and starting to cluster your assessments, starting to get those learners to think about being assessed holistically across their whole performance. On the 1st of February, City and Guilds will submit to you what is going to be in that endpoint synoptic practical assessment. This will be on our website and it will be password protected. You will have to go to your exams department if you do not have access to Walled Garden to be able to access the password. What we've been doing just recently is trying to make sure that we've got key contacts in every centre that is offering the level 3 technicals this year, because although we are communicating to your exams department, I'm very conscious that I want to make sure I'm communicating to you as well, to make sure that I'm making sure that you're fully prepared for your learners being prepared for these endpoint assessments. So 1st of February, I will send you out a reminder to say that the synoptic practical assessments are now available on the website. Now, hair and beauty, although we're in one department, we are 2 completely different industries. The hairdressing, barbering, nails, theatrical and media, you will want to share those synoptic practical assessments with your learners as soon as possible, because the theatrical, media and nails, they have to go off and research a particular era. The hairdressing and barbering, they have to go off and source their clients to be able to showcase their skills to the best of their ability. The beauty, you need to probably start to think about advertising your mini spa event or your pamper package to include what is going to be in that synoptic practical assessment. We know it's got to be across the mandatory unit, so it will probably be some form of body massage with the facial electrical, body electrical and dry spa treatment. But the way that hair and beauty differs is that for beauty therapy, we have said that the learner cannot be familiar with that client. That client needs to walk through the door and they cannot be somebody they're over familiar with. They need to be able to carry out that treatment analysis, that body analysis, that skin analysis, and then design that treatment plan, that pamper event around that client's objectives. The hairdressing, barbering, nails, theatrical media, they need to go off and source their clients. Once that window opens, you then have that 12 weeks to get your learners through that endpoint assessment. How you manage that is completely up to you. Now you've got 12 weeks, but if you have only about 50 or 60 learners carrying out that endpoint assessment, you probably wouldn't even be looking at the first 4 to 5 weeks of that window. Excuse me. Excuse me. What you would need to let us know at some point is when you are thinking of starting to assess your learners. What we would then do is then we would get your moderator to contact you. What your moderator will want to do is come in at the earliest opportunity to be able to, because we see it as a supportive role as well. What your moderator will do is they will discuss a time with you, and what they will want to see is a group of around about 6 different learners across different assessors that are assessing that endpoint assessment. They will also want to see across the ranks. So obviously we don't want to push a learner in for a final assessment until they're really ready. But what you could do is show them maybe a distinction learner and a merit learner, and then later on the moderator may ask to see desk-based samples of those maybe learners that you're predicting as being a pass. How you plan that is completely up to you, all right? You make sure that your learners aren't ready for that make sure that you don't put them in for that endpoint assessment until they're 100% ready. But you must make sure all of those learners complete by the 19th of May. Because once that window closes on the 19th of May, it closes for that academic year. And then if the learner hasn't been able to get through, then the window will not open again until the following academic year. Now, realistically, if the learner hasn't got those skills by the 19th of May, they're not going to happen by the 19th of June. And really, again, if that learner hasn't got the skills, then should they get that qualification? No, they shouldn't. We've got to make sure that we are raising the profile and the skills of these young people that are going out into industry. Once your moderator has been in, they will come in and they will mark alongside you against the different assessors across 6 or different learners, hopefully across maybe distinction and merit learners that you've predicted. At the end of that, they will not give you any comments on your marks, but they will talk to you about how you're submitting your evidence and the evidence that you are submitting, and give you some feedback on that evidence. Once your moderator has been in, obviously you sense check everything you've done in the past, and then you'll continue along your journey, carrying out final assessments with the rest of your learners. Once that window closes on the 19th of May, your moderator will pull up the learners that they have marked alongside you, and if you are within that 5% tolerance, then your moderator may not ask to see any additional evidence. They may ask to see, if they haven't sampled across all the ranks, they may ask to see some desk-based evidence of maybe your slightly lower level learners, of your past learners. But that will all be discussed with you when your moderator contacts you before that moderation window opens. If your moderator wants to see any additional evidence, the additional evidence that they will ask to see for hairdressing, barbering, nails, theatrical media would be your pre-assessment plans. It could be your pre-assessment plans, a bit like if you came to my launch events, I went through my mood board with you. Once you get that Synoptic practical assessment released to you on the 1st of February, it will detail absolutely everything you need to do to prepare your learners for that end moderation visit, and what additional evidence your moderator may ask to see. For hairdressing, we will ask for hairdressing, barbering, nails, and theatrical media. We will ask for some photographic evidence as well, because it's really important that we can see what that learner has achieved. There's no point us asking for photographic evidence for beauty therapy, because that client laying floppy on the bed doesn't really tell me anything. But for hairdressing and barbering, nails, theatrical media, we can see that end point. We have an end product which we can make a judgment against. After every service, you need to start thinking about getting your learners to evaluate it, because one of the requirements after the practical Synoptic assessment is the learners within 3 working days will have to, in supervised conditions, have to evaluate their performance, how they felt it went, what could they do better next time, if they had to do any modifications, and what were they? With your optional units, we decided to go down the assignment-based route. So hopefully you've all had access to these now. They all should now be on the City and Guilds website. They are password protected, but you can get these passwords off of Walled Garden. We've chosen to do the case study approach. So a case study which will include the skills and the knowledge. You have to submit these onto the City and Guilds website by the 16th of June. And these will again be moderated, but it will be a desk-based moderation. After Christmas, we will start to give you guidance and start to train you on how you will upload all of this evidence onto the City and Guilds platform. So once Christmas is over, we will start to get you all ready for how you submit this evidence and how you will be, the timeline of when everything needs to be done. The other part of this qualification that you need to make sure that learners are achieving is that each learner has to undertake meaningful employer involvement activities. Obviously, as part of your QAP approval, you had to go through and just give us what your assessment plan was. So now you will now have to, by the 16th of June, your moderator will ask to see a sample of different learners and how they have met that employer involvement activities. So let's just go through and just have a recap. So for the technical qualification, the externally set and externally marked element, there's one clear resit opportunity, okay? That 2 windows in each academic year. For the technical qualification for the Synoptic assignment, there are opportunities to learners to rework the assignment before the end submission date. And what I mean by that, if you've got a learner that there's 2 areas of rework. If a learner has done her pre-assessment or he has done his pre-assessment plan, and maybe that colour maybe isn't as bright as it wants to be, or maybe they've had to modify a treatment, as long as that learner is doing it off their own back and it's not being tutor-led, then that is fine. and actually they can actually earn some more marks under assessment objective 5 under wanting to go for that perfection. If you have got a learner that's been a distinction learner all the way through, and this is why we're asking you to start to think about ranking your learners now and start to build some evidence about mock assessments, and for whatever reason that learner that has been your high flyer learner all the way through has completely underperformed, you could allow that learner in exceptional circumstances to rework that assignment. But it has to be before that window closes on the 19th of May. So once that closes, it closes for that academic year. If the learner is reworking that whole assignment, then the client needs to be, they can still do the same script, but the client has to be different. The optional units are internally managed and marked. These are graded, and you grade these, and these are graded very similar to you would grade a VRQ type practical assessment at the moment. These again will be moderated, and once you've submitted your marks onto the City and Guilds platform, your moderator will ask to see a selection of different learners' case study material, which you would then have to upload onto the City and Guilds platform, and it will be a desk-based activity. Again, your employer involvement is internally managed, but we will need to check this as sample at some point. And I say, if you've got any questions, please type up your questions as we're going along. I will come and look at those towards the end in a moment. Key Stage 4, we have our Key Stage 4 Level 2 offer. As I say, it is 120 guided learning hours, and it is comparable to 1 GCSE. What we need to be aware of is, because it is comparable to a GCSE, it will have the rigour of a GCSE. We still have to think about our less able learners. And I really think now we've got to make sure that your information, advice and guidance is going to be key moving forward. Right level of course for right learner. We still need to think about those less able learners. And I think many schools at the moment are only really looking at qualifications that sit on the performance tables. As we well know, some of our learners would not be capable of getting through a knowledge-based qualification, such as this technical award, if they are a lower level learner. And we still have a duty of care to get those lower level learners into employment, engaging them. And you know, if you can start to get a learner engaged into a qualification, something like 3001, then once they start to achieve, their whole attitude and their whole ability gets better, and they start to achieve and they start to behave better at school. Within this new technical qualification, I know we didn't get it through the first time, we didn't get it through the second time, but we were adamant at City and Guilds that we wanted to have a practical aspect towards this qualification, because many learners that are deciding that they want to go into hair and beauty just to do a knowledge-based qualification, when it is such a practical qualification, a practical career that they want to go into, we felt was very sad. So we got it through, we stuck to our guns, and we got it through. So we got Exploring the World of Hair and Beauty, which is a knowledge-based unit, Science of Hair and Beauty, which is a knowledge-based unit, and then we have got Design in the Hair and Beauty sector, where the learners can start to develop some of their practical skills. The assessment model for Key Stage 4 is very, very similar to Key Stage 5. There is an externally marked and externally set knowledge paper, which will be a mixture of short answer questions with some stretch and challenge questions. The externally set and the externally marked element contributes to 40% of the overall mark. And again, very similar to Key Stage 5, you can choose to do this online or paper-based. The one resit opportunity still applies. For the synoptic aspect, there is no resit in the same year, very similar to the Key Stage 5 as well. But what we would probably recommend for the Key Stage 4 is that this is delivered over a 2-year period, unless you do have a more able learner which could be delivered over a 1-year period. The synoptic assessment is weighted heavier, like the practical within the Key Stage 5, and it contributes to 60% of the overall grade. For both Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5, the qualification cannot be achieved unless achieving a pass in both components. They have to achieve the mandatory knowledge, and they have to achieve the the synoptic task-based assessment as well. Okay, so we've gone through what we got at Key Stage 5 this year, which lots of people have already started. I'm just going to have a look at a few questions. When will this apply to Scotland? At the moment, these reforms are only for England, although we are able to offer our technical qualifications in Northern Ireland, in Wales and in Scotland. We haven't got any centres that have picked it up in Scotland just as yet, but we need to make sure maybe we're talking to the funding people within Scotland to see if they could be fundable within Scotland. Another question that is coming up is, who is the moderator? Okay, the moderator will be somebody, it won't be your EQA, you will still have your EQA, because obviously we will still need to EQA other qualifications, such as your MVQ, such as your 3001, anything that doesn't sit under a technical. We're going through the process at the moment. We've just recently appointed our principal moderators and our lead moderators, and we will be training up our moderators after Christmas. Obviously, as part of these qualifications, there is going to be no real IQA that you need to do. The only thing that you will have to do is you will have to make sure that you're standardising your marks across different assessors to make sure everybody is singing from the same song sheet. And the optional units will need to be IQA. That's the only thing that will. At the moment, no, this isn't for apprenticeships. We're going to move on to apprenticeships in a little while. Again, another question about who the moderator is going to be. As I say, we are starting to employ those moderators. If anybody is interested in becoming a moderator, if they'd like to send to me their CV, then I will always pass it on. I'm very mindful that I want the people that are going to be moderators, people that do understand the delivery of this qualification as well. Okay, so what's coming for level 2? So, we've currently submitted the following 4 qualifications to the Department for Education for first teaching for September 2017. All right. So this at the moment is just for full-time education. Now, the biggest message I've really got to get through today is the right level of course for the right learners. And I think because we are now getting to the point now where in the past, in some cases, if it's had a pulse, we were able to get the learners through. That isn't going to be the case any longer. And with the Sainsbury Review, what they're looking for is that rigour and that quality and those qualifications that actually those employers see as the gold standard. And the other thing that the Sainsbury's Review is looking at is that each of these qualifications has to lead into employment, and it has to lead into sustainable employment. So right level of course for right learner. So your information, advice and guidance is going to be key. So what are we going to have under the beauty related portfolio? So we've got our new level 2 technical certificate in beauty therapy. This is going to be 450 guided learning hours. We've got a new term, which is TQT, which is total qualification time. We've got to get learners to think about continuing how they've been taught at school for the last 5 years. The last 5 years, they've had to do homework, they've had to do self-directed study. For these qualifications, for them to be ready for that endpoint assessment, they need to do self-directed study, they need to do some homework. So we're saying that although it's 450 is guided by you as tutor, then there are self-directed study hours that that learner needs to do away from centre to fully prepare them to go into the beauty-related industry. So we've got our level 2 technical certificate in beauty therapy. We're going to have a look at the rules of combination in a moment. We've then got a new qualification, which is our level 2 technical certificate in beauty retail. Now, we do have a lot of learners coming into college that want to go into the beauty-related industry, but maybe are coming in at true level 1 learners that maybe have got to pick up both their maths and English qualifications. Maybe, you know, they do struggle academically slightly. We have to think about right level of course, right pathway for each learner. We have a duty of care to get these less able learners still into employment. So this level 2 technical certificate in beauty retail would be ideal for a learner that's coming to you, wants to be in the beauty related industry, but you feel maybe struggling to maybe maintain or retain that anatomy and physiology skills that they need to become a beauty and spa therapist. Level 2 technical certificate in beauty retail could be for those learners that maybe want to work in the beauty related industry, maybe working in John Lewis or House of Fraser on Debenhams behind the concession stores at Mac, Benefit, Clarence, you know, Clinique. That is a good job opportunity for them if they want to be in the beauty related industry. We've also developed, when we look at the apprenticeships in a little while, a new beauty consultancy retail apprenticeship. Now the issue with the beauty consultancy, to be able to work on the counters at Mac, at Benefit, you know, in John Lewis, you have to be 17 or 18. So for me, for a learner that's coming to you, they could start off at the level 2 technical certificate in beauty retail and then stop off and go on to an apprenticeship. Or for your real lower level learners, they could come to you at level 1, do a year with you at level 1, then go on to the level 2 technical certificate in beauty retail, and then step off and go on to an apprenticeship. We have to think about those learners' progression into employment. We then got our technical certificate in nail treatments, and then we've got our new level 2 technical certificate in makeup artistry. Let's have a look at how these qualifications are made up. So, for our beauty, our level 2 technical certificate in beauty retail, sorry, our beauty certificate in beauty therapy, it's a very traditional 1-year course. What our industry board was very mindful of is that they wanted to have anatomy and physiology as a completely separate unit. I think in the past it's been embedded in the other technical units, and in a way it's been watered down. A very strong message from our industry board is that they wanted anatomy and physiology taught as a separate unit. We then got the principles and practices of beauty therapists, which is a unit that concentrates on communication, promote and sell, values and behaviours, and your health and safety. We've then got hair removal treatments, your waxing, you've got facial and skin analysis, manicure, pedicure, and a new unit on light curve gel polish. You've then got your lash and brow treatments and applying makeup. They're all in mandatory units. Don't forget that end synoptic-based assessment will cover aspects of all of those technical units in the mandatory section. Then they can choose one optional unit from male skincare treatments, tanning treatments, and an introduction to the spa industry. And that's an introduction to the dry spa industry. You don't have to have a wet spa for that. So that's going to be what we've submitted to the Department for Education for beauty. Then we're going to look at our beauty retail. As I say, perfect qualification maybe for those learners that maybe have maybe coming in a true level 1 learner. So we've got work in the beauty retail industry, communication and customer service, sales and promotional activities, skincare for beauty retail, makeup for beauty retail, and retail of additional beauty products. All mandatory content. Then we've got our level 2 technical certificate in nail treatments. Again, we've got anatomy and physiology, but just for the hands and feet. Introduction to working in the nail industry. Nail enhancements, nail art services, manicure services, pedicure services, and light curved gel polish. Really pleased with this qualification. Now, in the past, we've had to add on additional beauty-related units just to get it up to a diploma size. Also, we don't need to do that any longer. So, all now related units. Then we've got our new level 2 technical certificate in makeup artistry. Really, really happy with this qualification. We've got true makeup artists now supporting us at City and Guilds to write a qualification that meets the needs of the media makeup artist portfolio. So we've got principles of working in the makeup industry, anatomy and physiology for makeup artists, principles of research and developing and showcasing designs, the art of applying makeup, hair artistry, and creative makeup artistry. Much better broader combination for those learners who want to progress into the media makeup industry. So that is going to be what we have submitted to the Department for Education. We will not hear from them probably until, they said December, I know we're in December now, but probably not until the end of December or beginning of January. But as soon as we hear that they've been approved, then I will send you out information. So, hairdressing. I'm quite confident for all of them for beauty therapy. I think we've got strong letters of support, we've got employers that back them, and a similar sort of way as we have for hairdressing. But we have been asked for many years now to see if we can split hairdressing into 2 one-year programs. And I think historically we've always taught beauty therapy over 1 year, but for hairdressing we need 2 years to get them through a level 2 to get them ready to go on to level 3. But in the past we've not wanted a 2-year program because retention achievement has always been bad over a 2-year program. So I have put forward 4 different qualifications to the Department for Education. I've got really strong letters of support from industry. I've got employers that back it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we should all get these all through. So we've got my level 2 technical certificate in barbering. My job opportunity here is as a junior barber. Traditional skills, we'll look at what is in this qualification in a moment. Then I've got my level 2 technical certificates in hairdressing. This, to me, for some learners to have all of the skills around cutting, colouring, styling, could be a step too far if they are having to pick up their maths and English. So for me, although I think this qualification is really important, it would be maybe for my more able learners that don't have to pick up both maths and English, maybe for those learners that are coming from Key Stage 4 with prior experience. Okay, but it is, you know, as I say, when we look at rules of combination, for those learners to have all of those skills ready to do that endpoint assessment by term 3 could be quite challenging for some learners. Then this is where I've split my qualification, hairdressing qualification, into 2 one-year courses. I've got my new level 2 technical certificate for cutting and styling services. Now for me, the job opportunity for this learner would be that actually at the age of 17, they couldn't just drop out of education. They had to stay in education to their age of 18. So they could step off and go on to an apprenticeship. Or if you've got a real lower level learner, they could start at level 1 for a year, then go on to this qualification in their 2nd year. And actually, they could be employed at the end of it as in a blow-dry bar. These blow-dry bars are popping up all over the place at the moment, in hotels, airports, shopping centres, and people are screaming out for people that can do that Chelsea blow-dry, those bouncy blow-dries. So for some learners, maybe who have got learning difficulties, and many of our learners do come to us with things like dyspraxia, who can't understand math. Colouring is maths, and some learners just can't grasp it. So they are still employable to be working as a junior stylist or in a blow-dry bar. If your learners come to you at 16, do the technical certificate in the 1st year, don't get a job opportunity and step off into an apprenticeship, and then come back to the 2nd year and do the level 2 technical certificate in colouring services. 2 different job outcomes, 2 clear paths. Level 2 technical certificate in cutting styling could be as a junior stylist to work in a blow-dry bar. The level 2 technical certificate in colouring services could be as a junior colour technician. We have learners that sometimes do not grasp both cutting and colouring. This way they can either specialise in cutting and styling or specialise in colouring, or they can come back to do the 2nd year and get the full hairdressing skills to be able to go on to level 3. Right course for right learners. We're giving you some option here. Let's have a look at how these qualifications are set up. So we've got our technical certificate in barbering. We've got a new unit on principles and practices of hairdressing and barbering services. This unit includes your consultation, promote and sell, health and safety, and your values and behaviours. Then you've got your shampoo and condition and treat hair and scalp, cut hair using basic barbering techniques, dry and finish men's hair, cut facial hair to shape, and then create basic outlines and detailing hair. Exactly the same units that are in my current 6008, which has been delivered to your level 2 barbering apprentices. My employers are adamant, same skills, full-time learners as to that as your apprenticeships. Then for my barbering industry board, they were adamant they didn't want any optional units. They wanted in the 1st year for them to concentrate on those cutting skills. So they didn't want colouring in there as an optional unit. Colouring is as an optional unit at level 3, but it is the level 2 colouring unit which incorporates partial colour, shoe shine, those sorts of techniques rather than the level 3 colouring unit. Our traditional level 2 technical certificate in hairdressing, principles and practices of hairdressing and barbering, incorporates consultation, health and safety, promote and sell, and your values and behaviours, shampooing and conditioning, cut hair using basic techniques. We've merged the setting and the blow dry unit together just because there's an awful lot of crossover of the knowledge in those 2 units. So same skills, but we've just merged the 2 units together, and colouring and lightening hair. Now, for some learners, as I say, I think that could be a step too far in one academic year when you think you've got to have them, to have those skills ready by term 3 to be able to carry out that end synoptic practical assessment. But you know your learners better than I do. It is an option there for you. Then what we put forward. Now, I don't know if any of you came to my meetings where we were discussing what should come first, the chicken or the egg. We had great debates whether cutting should come first or colouring. When I put it to the Department for Education, they were happy that we could have 2 separate qualifications and you could get funding for 2 separate qualifications because there was a job opportunity at the end of each of them. But what they did say is you couldn't have a prerequisite to say you have to do this one before going on to the next one. So you have now the option of doing either, whichever you feel best. So if you feel colouring will make your learners more employable, step off onto that apprenticeship, you can teach that in the first year. It's entirely up to you. Technical certificate in cutting styling services, you've got your principles and practices unit, but within this unit, in this qualification, it concentrates on your, obviously, your consultation skills around cutting and styling, not on chemical services. Then you have your shampooing and conditioning unit, cut hair using basic techniques, style, set and dress hair, and plait and twist. No optional units. So if you were delivering this to full-time learners, or maybe to your adult learners, because we don't know quite what's going to happen with your SFA funding yet, we don't know if they will say in February and March when they state what their funding guidelines are going to be, if you will only get funding for tech, because we do not know that at the moment. But if you were delivering this to your adults, you haven't got any optional units, there's nothing stopping you picking up colouring in the 3rd term, or delivering colouring alongside. Your technical certificate for colouring services. So if your learners do the technical certificate cutting and styling in the 1st year, if they're 16 to 18-year-olds, don't get a job as an apprentice, so can't step off. You bank your achievement, your success rates, and they come back to the 2nd year, and they then concentrate on their colouring and chemical services. Principles and practice of hairdressing and barbering, colouring and lightening hair. Then we developed a new unit on styling and finishing services, because if that client comes in for that colour, they still need to be able to blow dry it, they still need to be able to colour it, cut it, they still need to be able to finish it. So really, whatever they've learned, if you are delivering cutting in the 1st year, we want them to completely carry on and develop those skills in the 2nd year. And then they have to choose an optional unit from perming or from relaxing. So that is going to be our level 2 offer for hairdressing. As soon as we hear from the Department for Education, we will let everybody know. I know it's really late in the day for you to be able to do your planning, but at the moment they have gone through and they're sitting with the Minister at the moment just to rubber stamp them. So as soon as we hear, you will hear. Okay, so I'm just going to check if we've got any questions before we go on to the apprenticeships. One question is, when will the level 2 technical certificates be approved and finalised? All information is on our website now, so you can start to have a look at the qualification handbooks. All the information is on there, but as I said, as soon as we hear from the Department for Education, I will let everybody know. All right. Okay, apprenticeships. So, I need to just set the scene a little bit here for you. What we need to think about is what's happened. And I'm just going to go back 6 months and to give you a little bit of a reason why we're in the situation we are in today. 6 months ago, steering group, obviously with the new trailblazer type apprenticeship, it is employers that are making decisions about what should be in a qualification now. And when we sat down, the way you're going to be funded for apprenticeship now is under 2 ways. Well, this is what it was 6 months ago. Under the levy of your small, medium enterprise, you will then, at that point 6 months ago, the government was saying that every £2 the government puts in, employers had to put £1 in. Now, when we submitted the hair professional plan 6 months ago, luckily, it wasn't approved. There were some actions that needed to be. But at that point, it was actually put into Band C, which meant that we might get £9,000 for that apprenticeship. Now you do your maths. That means then for £9,000, the government will put £6,000 in, and it meant that because we are small, medium enterprises in the hair and beauty sector and not affected by the levy, it would mean then that we would, each employer would have to put £3,000 cash up front. Now, when we spoke to the steering group and all awarding organisations, we said that actually that would be the death of hair and beauty apprenticeships in this country, because we didn't feel that an employer would put up £3,000 cash up front. They would get that back in 90 days instalments, and if that learner did achieve, they would get £3,600 back. But we just felt there was going to be a cash flow problem. So the steering group and awarding organisations met up with this, and we said at that point that actually this wasn't going to be great for the hair and beauty industry, and we weren't going to resubmit our hair professional plan or our beauty professional plan until that these concerns had been addressed. So we really took it off the back burner, really. We then thought, actually, we let other trailblazer iron out some of the problems before it gets to us, and we would look possibly to think about this in 2018. Then we got the message probably 8 to 9 weeks ago now that the government are really forcing our hand to go down and use these new standards, because what they're now doing is halving the funding for current SASE frameworks. So I sent out information to everybody and pleaded with you to carry out the Nickel-Inford survey, and thankfully the government has listened. We will be going live with the new Level 2 apprenticeships in May 2017, and I'm now going to talk you through how these will be funded. So, thankfully, the government has listened, okay? Because the majority of our employers are not affected by the levy, then it means then that these new rules are going to start to apply. So if an employer is too small to pay the levy, they will now have to pay 10% towards a training cost. So we have now resubmitted our hair and beauty professional plan. We don't know if it's still going to come out at 9,000, we're not sure, but if it does come out at 9,000, that then means that employers now only have to pay £900, which is better than 3,000. Point 2, if employers with fewer than 50 people working for them, which is most of our small, medium enterprises, then if the learner is between 16 to 18, then the government will now pay 100%. So that's really, really good news. But if that learner is over the age of 19, the employer will still have to pay 10% towards that training cost. When an employer takes on a 16 to 18-year-old, they will now receive £1,000 if the learner is between 16 to 18 to meet extra costs. So they're getting their bursary back again, which is good news. They will get this in 2 equal instalments, one after 3 months and then one after 12 months. Also, if that 16 to 18, these incentives are only for 16 to 18-year-olds. If that 16 to 18-year-old is on an education healthcare plan, they will receive an additional £2,000 as well towards their training costs. What the Department for Education has now done is they have now merged current SASE frameworks and the new apprenticeship standards into a new 15-band system, which we're going to look at. So, just to confirm, government will contribute £2,000 towards the cost of a 16 to 18-year-old apprentice. £1,000 if they're 16 to 18 will go to the employer, and £1,000 will go to you as a provider. The current frameworks, because of what we've said to the government through the Nick Linford survey and other surveys, they're now going to give us an additional transition funding, which will give us a 20% uplift, which we'll look at in a moment. Obviously, you've got your further funding support incentives for care leavers and for those on education and health care plans. You'll also get funded for each maths and English that a learner has to undertake, so £471 per qualification. As I said, all existing apprenticeship frameworks and standards have now been put into one of the 15 funding bands, which comes into effect as from the 1st of May. There will no longer be any age restriction to apprenticeship delivery, so whichever band they're put in, that is the money you get for 19 plus learners. But you will then not get any incentives. The incentives are only for 16 to 18-year-olds. So what does that mean to us? So, for the current, and I'm going to talk about current SASE frameworks. So this is what our learners are doing today, has been doing for the last few years under the current SASE framework. The new band that we've been put into means for hairdressing and barbering, we will get £3,000. For beauty therapy, we'll get £2,500. That has been slashed in half. But they have listened to us and they are looking to give us other incentives. Now, two things we need to think about here. For our current level 2 SASE frameworks we have on programme today, the level 3 apprenticeship standard will not be ready for 1st of May. The level 2 will be, and we have already started work on it. We are doing launch events for this in March. We will be ready for the 1st of May for the new super level 2. And when we look at the level 2 in hairdressing and barbering at the moment, it is a super level 2. Because when they designed Trailblazer, it was very clear at the beginning, and goalposts had changed, but it was very clear at the beginning that you could only have one job opportunity. And as we well know, really, level 2 in hairdressing doesn't make somebody completely job ready. Level 3 does. So what they've done is they've done a combined level 2 and level 3 standard at level 2. So we've got consultation from level 2, shampooing from level 2, we've got aspects from level 2 cutting and level 3 cutting, we've got aspects of level 2 cutting and level 3 cutting, aspects of level 2 and level 3 styling. So if I was to level that correctly, it would probably come out at a level 3. But the steering group was very mindful that actually we didn't want it at level 3 because we didn't really want those learners to have to do maths and English at level 2. So in a way we're dumbing down our industry slightly, but when we look at a slide in a moment, you can see how important it is that we have left it at level 2. So for your current level 2 learners, if you feel that they're actually the new super level 2 standard, which will come live as from the 1st of May, is going to have aspects of level 3 in it. What is going to be in the level 3? We don't particularly know at the moment because it hasn't been finalised. If you've got cutting from level 3 and colouring from level 3 in the level 2, then the level 3 is going to be a super level 3. So my concern, I've got two concerns here, is firstly, will your current level 2 apprentices you have on board today, if they are going to go on to the new level 3 standard, which they can in September, if it's ready in September, there could be skills gaps because you wouldn't have taught cutting at level 3 and coming at level 2 in what you're delivering today with those learners. Excuse me. For your level 2 today, also, we need to look at if those learners are within the 1 year and a day, if they could be finished by the end of March to be signed up for the current level 3 SASE framework, so that you can then secure full funding before the 1st of May. We're saying 31st of March at the moment, just because some contracts state you cannot have any new starts in the current contract year in the month of April. I know within Essex there is one area that says that very clearly. So you may be all right, but you need to check that. If you do have any learners that could be finished and capable of being finished within their 1 year and a day before end of March, then what I would suggest you do is you try to complete those learners slightly earlier so that you can then retain your full funding for your current SASE framework at level 3. If you don't, then what will you be funded at level 3? Okay, so if your learner is at the age of 16 to 18, you will get £3,000, that's the funding band. If they're 16 to 18, you as the employer will get a £1,000 incentive. You as a training provider will get a £1,000 incentive, and you will get a 20% uplift. Okay? So actually, you will get, if the learner's between the age of 16 to 18, you will get £4,500. Now that's probably £2,000 less than what you get today, between £1,500 and £2,000 less than what you get today. So you've got to think, are you going to be able to afford to do it for less money? So that's why you've got to think about maybe if you can, finishing those current level 2 learners if they are within their 1 year a day early. Now if you've got a learner that's going to be a 19 plus, actually the funding band that we've been given at £3,000 is actually slightly more than actually you get paid today. So if you're already doing 19 plus learners, and I think you get around about £2,800, actually you're not going to be any worse off. You're going to be slightly better off. So you have to think about two things. Firstly, your current level 2 learners you have on programme today, if you could upfront some of your assessing and getting those learners finished, if they are within 1 year and a day before the end of March, then you need to see if you can try and do that. I feel that if you are teaching over and above like lots of other centres do, then maybe some learners could go on to the super level 3. That's not be a problem. If you feel that some of your learners might struggle with that, then you're going to have to continue with the current SASE framework as it is and take the hit on funding. The beauty therapy is exactly the same, not quite in so much of a pickle as we are with hairdressing, because the job opportunity for beauty therapists at level 2 is completely different to that at level 3. But you still have got, obviously, to think about those learners that are progressing onto the level 3, because that standard will not possibly be ready until September at the earliest. The beauty at level 3, they are looking at doing possibly an electrical route or a non-electrical route at level 3, a massage route or general route. They haven't decided what they're going to call it yet. For hairdressing at level 3, they're looking at more of the a general route, but they're looking at also maybe a colour technician specialist route and maybe a creative stylist route as well. So let's have a look now at a couple of things I really need for you to be aware of is how you're assessing now compared to how you will be assessing in the future. So currently, how we assess a current SASE framework is that the learner will do qualification. They'll do, if they're doing a level 2, they'll do their maths and English at level 1. If they're doing a level 3, they'll do their maths and English at level 2. They do their personal learning and thinking skills, and then their employer rights and responsibilities. If their learners achieve all of that, then they can then get their overall certification, their framework certification. If you had a learner that didn't achieve that maths and English for whatever reason, then the learner would still get the qualification, but they wouldn't get the overall framework certificate. In the new world, the way it's going to work is we're really fortunate we have got a qualification attached to it, which is really, really good news. The way that our steering group have built our qualification is that they were adamant that they wanted learners to make sure that they go through to do the end point assessment, to do that cherry on top of the cake. There will be an end knowledge test and an end practical test, very similar to the technical qualifications that I raised earlier on. The difference here would be they will be assessed by an independent examiner who has no incentive or disincentive to that centre. So somebody who's completely unfamiliar with them. Now, because what they've done is they built that endpoint knowledge test and endpoint practical test as a component within the qualification, it means that the learners have to finish that endpoint assessment and achieve it to get the overall qualification. Now, the reason this to me is quite key is that we've got something now called the gateway. And before a learner can actually go through that gateway to do that end point assessments, that knowledge test and that end trade test, they have to achieve that qualification up to that point, and they have to have achieved and passed their maths and English and their formative assessment behaviours. If we can't get those learners through that maths and English, they can't even get through the gateway to do their end point assessment. So if you've got a learner that can't get through that maths at level 1, then they can't go through the gateway to do that end point assessment. So that then means that that learner goes away with nothing. They don't get a qualification at all. Whereas under a current SASE framework, they will still get that qualification. So that is why it's really good and it was really important that our level 2 standard was levelled at level 2 rather than at level 3. Because if that was a requirement, maths and English had to be achieved at level 2 and achieved before they go through the gateway to go on to their endpoint assessment, that could be a barrier for many learners. The other thing that in the guidance which you need to get your heads around as well is that before that learner goes through the gateway, they have to have achieved their maths and English at level 1 because it's a level 2 standard, but also they have to have attempted but not passed their level 2 maths and English functional skills. So if you've got a learner that's coming into you that hasn't got a concession, that's got an F or a G, then you have to obviously try to get them through their maths and English at level 1. But also they would have had to have attempted their level 2 before they go through that gateway. So just something else to think about. So let's have a look at how these qualifications are made up. So we've got our hair professional qualification. It will not be called an MVQ, it'll be called a hair professional. 2 routes, hairdressing and barbering. So hairdressing, got consultation, shampoo and conditioning. Cut hair using a range of techniques that incorporates level 2 and level 3 skills. Style and finish hair, again, incorporates level 2 and level 3 skills. Colour and lightening hair, again, level 2 and level 3 skills. They then have to choose one optional unit, perming, relaxing or hair extensions. That is our new hairdressing at level for our hair professional qualification. Barbering, this isn't something that I need you to think about. Many learners, we have many centres take on level 2 apprenticeships in barbering, but we only get 30% of those learners progress to level 3. We have now only got one barbering qualification, and it is a super level 2, which incorporates consultation, shampoo, cutting, which is aspects from level 2 and level 3, style and finish men's hair, cut facial hair, and shaving. So if you are a training provider or a college that only really does level 2, there could be skills gaps. You have to think about having the right people to be able to assess and deliver these skills. So you might need to think about your assessment too. For beauty therapy, We are going to have 3 routes. We've got our new beauty and makeup consultancy route. You've got your beauty therapy route and nail services. Beauty consultancy, instruct the use of application skincare and makeup products. Advise customer eyebrow, eye and brow products. Advise customer facial products. Advise customer nail products. Promotional activities, stock control. Making beauty recommendations to customers and perfumery. This is going to be a great way that we could possibly build beauty-related apprenticeships. Start to engage with our large department stores, think about getting learners that are working on that benefit clinic to be able to think about this as a beauty consultancy apprenticeship route. We then got our traditional beauty route. We've got remove hair using wax. We've got our hand and nail treatments, which is your manicure unit, provides foot spa, foot treatments, which is your pedicure unit, facial treatments, range of eyebrow treatments, and makeup. We've then got an option of provide self-tanning and provide massage. We've then got our nail services. Provide manicure, provide pedicure, advise customer on nail products and services, provide gel polish for nails, create basic nail art, and provide nail enhancements. As I say, we will be doing launch events for these qualifications starting in March. As soon as I have any details about the technicals, I will be emailing everybody. We have just recently sent out a product update talking about everything I talked about today as well. So as a thank you, just in case you haven't got that, I will send you the product update as well. I'm just going to go back to see if we've got any last questions. No, it doesn't seem. Just going to give you a couple of minutes if there's any other questions around apprenticeships anybody wants to ask. If not, I will thank you very much for listening in today. Sorry I've had to cough and splatter a little bit today, but at least I'm sitting in a room on my own, not sharing my germs with everybody. And I'd just like to wish everybody a very happy Christmas and a great new year, and look forward to seeing you in the new year. I'm going to have a really busy year next year, getting ready for level 2, level 3 technicals and the new apprenticeship standards. Many thanks for signing in, and look forward to seeing you all again. There's no apprenticeship. Oh, hang on, one question. When will there be more details on the apprenticeship frameworks? I will send you through what we've submitted at the moment, so you've got that. And as soon as we have any more information, I will let you know. But I will send you through the hair professional plan and the beauty professional plan, everything that we've submitted to BIS at the moment. As I say, we don't know when we're going to hear. As soon as we hear we've had the band that's been confirmed, I will let you all know. Okay, many thanks. Merry Christmas to everybody.